Hey, good evening and welcome to All the Right Movies. There's the movie poster for tonight's movie Goon. Last week, sure, I hope we can get some people in here. I know this isn't Brad Pitt in a nice summer baseball movie. We're jumping to the winter to hockey, and hockey was ended up being very big in our family. So I'm telling you, if you give this a shot, you're gonna love it. It's funny, much like many of our listeners. It's funny and disgusting. It's also weirdly got a heart to it. It stars Stiffler, but let's get into Goon here in a minute. Want to tell everybody, hey, this is our next to last week of All the Right Movies. We'll do next week's movie, and then the week after that will be the Tuesday before the Cincinnati game, and we'll be jumping right into the football-themed Husker Happy Hour. We'll also, it is the Huskers Happy Hour. It's not just the Husker Football Happy Hour. So every now and then I will be dragging Miley in. She's also one of our volleyball writers, and seeing if she can give us like a 5-10 minute update on the team from time to time. But anyway, yeah, just to warn you, next week is the last week, and I always try to save one of my, literal top 10 of all time for the final show. Last week we did Tin Cup, which is a top fiver for me. Just love that to death. My buddy Dan was nice enough to come on and do that. Next week we're doing Rocky, the original Rocky, and so much more fun trivia stuff has come out about that. Since the movie's release, since a ton more Rockies came out. Stallone did a director's cut of Rocky IV about 2 years ago, maybe 3. I think it's more like 2, where still the same. He took out as much as he added, so you don't have a 3-hour Rocky IV. You still have a fast-moving hour-and-a-half Rocky IV. But before they did it, they actually do these. It's not film streams. It's something that Marcus Theaters does. Is they'll just bring in a movie for a one-time, usually re-showing. It's never going to be a new movie. And they did the Rocky IV director's cut, Rocky IV, Rocky versus Drago. It was retitled. And they actually did a live stream interview with Stallone before the show for about, probably 30, 45 minutes. And really good, interesting stuff. They asked good questions. He gave good answers. He talked about, why he made the changes. He told a lot of good Rocky stories. Like a part of the time he was homeless while he was trying to get Rocky made. He didn't have any money. They wanted to buy the script from him for a nice chunk of change, but they wanted someone like James Caan, or for God's sakes, Ryan O'Neal playing Rocky. And, if they do that, I don't think we get, the Rocky sequels. Maybe if that happens, the Rambo movies never get made, et cetera, et cetera. And he kind of did the thing where he bet on himself. And in that process, the dog Butkus in Rocky is his dog. And he actually gave Butkus away because he was living out of his car, couldn't afford to feed the both of them. And I think the way he put it was, I didn't have money for both of us, and if we stayed together, I have a feeling I was going to end up being eaten by the dog instead of me eating him. So he gave the dog away. It all works out, of course, and then he ended up getting Butkus back in the end. So just fun little tidbits like that. But and then afterwards, again, last couple of weeks, since we are edging closer to kickoff, once the movie pod's over, for anybody that wants to stick around, we'll talk some Husker football. They had a press conference today. Let us go out and shoot practice, some do videos and pics or whatever, and then came back and then we had press interviews with Phil Snow, the defensive advisor, former defensive coordinator. Mike Eckler, always fun. He's a quote machine. I'm saving a lot of them, but I'll share the two best, and it's just he's just always exciting. He's a fun guy. He's funny. He's intense, and as Matt Rule said, he's one hell of a teacher, and you can see that and hear that from him when he talks. And then we had Dane Key come in and talk to us, really engaging. Dane Key is just a really engaging, nice, super nice, smart kid. But we got to talk to him in the spring, and then they brought him back out, and he's at full speed again. For those that were at Fan Day, he was in a yellow jersey, didn't participate in the contact drills, but he's been full go again. And he and Raleigh Van Poppel got a little surprise yesterday, and we'll talk about that. And then finally, Archie Wilson, who I've written about twice. People probably think I'm starting to have a creepy man crush on him. They're not completely wrong. I mean, I'm kidding, of course. This is an 18-year-old kid, but all we've been doing is hearing about him, got out to see him, kick some bombs with both feet. Finally got to meet him today, and he was exactly as advertised. They're just coming across, personality just coming out of his pores. Just has a really good spirit about him, and then there was a really heartwarming thing that none of us expected, obviously him either, near the end, and we'll talk about that. But it was really fun having Archie out. That's a kid I think the state's just about getting ready to adopt. So let's get going on Goon. Goon was released in 2012, and that's another of those movies. I have a feeling it's just part of getting older, because time just starts flying by. And what used to, because I think of a movie, let's say if it came out when I was 10, and if I saw it when I was like 24, I'd be like, God, is this an old movie now? And sure as hell, a movie in the mid 70s, that was 12 years old was like maybe or maybe not black and white, in the 60s. Now it just seems all these movies, basically because everything's been color ever since I grew up as a kid. So nothing seems as old as it did when I was a kid, and say On the Waterfront, or you hear about something like that. Like Butch and Sundance was still fairly new to me because that came out in like '69. But then I remember they brought it back to the theaters, so I got to see it in the theater when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and just thought they were the funniest pair on earth. But no, here's Goon. It's 14 years old now. It debuted. It was Canadian made, and it debuted on February 24th, 2012. Why not? And for them, that's probably, hey, what Jaws is to summer blockbuster, and getting to drop a hockey movie made in Canada, starring mostly Canadians. We're dropping that in the middle of hockey season when people flock to the theater. And let's talk about that. In Canadian terms, they did. I guess it did like 4.1 million in U.S. and Canada. In U.S., that's nothing. I always say, like, hey, where did it finish? The list I found for worldwide box office for 2012 only went to 200, and at 200, the number 200 movie still made like 12 or 13 million. So Goon brought in 6,985,000 worldwide in its release. And it had a budget of 12 million. So this was a bomb coming out of the theaters, even though it did set Canadian records for box office. And then it hit. Then word got out, at least among hockey fans, and it kind of hits it big after it. It's big on cable. It's big on DVD. It had been streaming. I was so disappointed for people that wanted to watch it when I mentioned it last week, that I had to, tell them this thing has been streaming one place or another for the past few years, and now just recently it had gone into that limbo, which is $3.95. I guess they discounted it 20 cents. It was $3.59 on Amazon, down from $3.79. So I got a big break on the price there. So anyway, here's what were the number one films of 2012, and it's a few big ones. Avengers, we made just over $1.5 billion. That was the number one movie of the year. After that was the outstanding, probably the best Bond movie, definitely the best Bond movie, I think, of the Daniel Craig era. Some might argue Casino Royale. and some argue it's in the running for best Bond movie ever, but that's Skyfall, and it was the number 2 movie in the country. So moviegoers actually agreed with the critics. And The Dark Knight Rises was number 3, first movie after Heath Ledger, the final one in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. Still my favorite. I did like the Batman with Robert Pattinson. I was surprised by it. I thought Batman doesn't have to be Henry Cavill sized, like Superman or Ben Affleck, or one of those. Like I was fine with, and now I'm blanking on an actor. I was fine with Christian. Why is that one tough? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. But Robert Pattinson was about the 140-pound kid from Harry Potter, and now they have him running around with his shirt off a little in the Batman. But and he's definitely wiry. But I thought he played the role amazingly. So anyway, but Christopher Nolan's still my favorite Batman. I thought the Tim Burton ones I thought those were goofy. The Hobbit was 4th. And Ice Age Continental Drift was 5th, and that segues kind of nicely. I always look for a Mount Rushmore of some sort, and I kind of divided Sean William Scott into 2 categories: his series types of movies, the ones that provided a sequel or sequels, and then just what I considered his top 4 other movies. But he was in the American Pie series, the Goon series. Goon did have a sequel, was not is highly enjoyed by critics as the original, which we'll get to that in a sec. They did enjoy it. And then Ice Age, and I can't remember what his character's name was in Ice Age, but there's Sean William Scott in Ice Age, and like Crackers or something. And they couldn't have drawn up a better Sean William Scott character, especially when you look at a lot of his comedy roles. And so his comedy roles, and then his 4 standalone movies that were my favorite were Role Models with Paul Rudd, very funny movie. The Rundown with The Rock, which was surprisingly good. Road Trip, he was one of the 4 stars. Both the Road Trip movies were great. Road Trip reviewed well, very funny movie. And then they did a Eurotrip sequel, which I avoided because it looked like had nothing to do with Road Trip other than having trip in the title. And then was just completely different type of story. And then a friend told me, watch Eurotrip. I watched Eurotrip. Best advice Merle ever gave me. It is funnier than Road Trip. I thought Road Trip was pretty damn funny. Eurotrip is an absolute riot. If you ever have a chance to watch Eurotrip, I highly recommend that. And then, even though he's only in it for 1 scene, I put in Old School, where he was like the animal guard, and he's the one standing there when what did they have? Was it a bull or something? No, it wasn't that big because it was in a cage, but he's sitting there threatening the animal, and then he had the tranquilizer, and then that's the one that Will Ferrell ends up stabbing himself with, and just goes berserk at his kid's birthday party and screaming. And just when he does it, and Sean William Scott he's like, yeah, I stabbed myself with it. And he's like, awesome! That's awesome! And so I liked his little, and he made some other pretty good comedies, but I just loved a little one on here. Here's Sean William Scott with a mullet, just descending on Old School out of the blue for a quick cameo. So that's my favorite Sean William Scott stuff. American Pie, there's a story, and I don't know all the details, but I think I'm getting the money amount right, which is ludicrous. And I want to say he did the first, I think it was the first 2, and he just basically worked for scale in those. He was a nobody in the first one, probably had some clause they could re-sign him for the same amount in the second one. And then they kept going, and he said for movie 3, I want $20 million. And I mean, that's when $20 million was George Clooney, Julia Roberts, that type of money, top star money. And they were like, of course not. And he's like, well, okay, I've got other things I'm working on. Thanks for the start. But, you got me for free the first time. And he literally put his foot down to make it up, and they paid him. And they paid him the $20 million. They decided that, hey, these movies are making money hand over fist, and we can't make it without him. His character is one of the ones people are showing up to see, so there you go. To the reviewers. Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert's still alive for this one, and he gave it 3 stars, which, those of you that know, Siskel and Ebert, 3 stars is a thumbs up from Raj. 2.5 or lower is thumbs down, 3's thumbs up. Raj gave it a thumbs up, said a lot of nice things about it. And one of the things he said was, is that he just wasn't expecting a movie that had a plot and a heart to it. And that's a big thing with Raj. I think Raj undervalues some very good comedies from time to time because he wants a plot in those comedies. And some comedies, you don't need a plot. It can be a Seinfeld show about nothing. There doesn't have to be a story. It can just be one gag after another. And if you leave the theater laughing, who cares? And I think sometimes Roger's like, well, this is silly. They're just making jokes. And nothing's going on. Yeah, but we laughed. It was a comedy. We knew the score going in. So one of the things he did say, because it's a thing where in 2012, they're starting to talk about concussions, but they're not regulating. They're not changing. They've made some hockey rule changes, some penalties. Even if it used to be, if the guy's got his head down, it seems perfectly fine to end his career, try and end his career just by going for his head and taking him out. And that's now a penalty. It can be by the rules a clean hit, but they will now throw the book at you if you took liberties, let's say. Instead of just putting a hit on him, you obviously were going for the injury. It's not that hard to gauge intent sometimes. And so anyway, but that wasn't going on yet. So they got this fighting, and it's definitely gory. And I think that's what they're trying to tell you through the last in the story is, hey, yeah, we're telling a story about goons, but we're giving you the close-ups that you don't get to see. You don't really see the cameras going tight for what they look like. As they're going off the ice or the results. Sometimes you'll see it by the blood spattered on the ice and them having to scrape and shovel for a couple minutes. Because hey, we can't be playing hockey with blood splatters on the ice. And they really overdo it sometimes, but that's intentional. The final fight is just unbelievably disgusting. But I think that's kind of a message for the people that love the fighting is, hey, these guys are really fucking each other up. And we know it's like they're not really trying to wave the flag. You are all animals. They're just kind of saying, hey, maybe take another think about what's going on here. But there's also a very good reason for the fighting that a lot of people don't want to hear either. So, we're not here to solve that tonight. And Goon wasn't either. I think they're just kind of throwing it out there. There's another side to this. Take a peek. Yeah, that's one thing Ebert said was, we're not quite there yet, so don't judge this movie badly. And one of his quotes was, if you start thinking about too much about concussions, it will spoil the movie for you. And he's right. So it's one of those that, if that's not going to be your thing, don't watch it. And I will also tell you right now that that I'm going to be playing some audio clips, and they're going to be very much rated R. And for me, the humor outweighs the rated R. And I've never really gotten a complaint yet in the comments. I might be pushing it tonight. We'll find out. So I won't be laughing at your comments. I'll be laughing at some of these scenes. Rotten Tomatoes, 81% out of the critics. It got an 81%. So this was a very well-reviewed movie, not just by Ebert, but by many, many critics. And the audience liked it at 71. I think that happens with sports movies because I think sometimes they get people get taken to the sports movie and don't like the sports movie. So maybe that pulls down the audience. I'm noticing a little consistency there. I'm not saying anything's wrong with these people. They made a deal. They agreed to go. I'm thinking a lot of times it's, all right, I went and saw the romantic comedy with you. Please come see Goon with me. And poor date. Oh, hey, there's even a love story in there between Sean William Scott and Allison Pill, so give that a try. She's not the sweetest girl in the world, but she's trying for him. Because here's the thing about Sean William Scott. I think a lot of people expected a goon who is a Stiffler, wisecracking smartass, and that's the thing. He's not. He is a not that smart guy, not that smart of a guy, who is 100% aware of the fact he's not that smart of a guy. And just embraces it. And he is a sweet guy. He is a good friend. He's a nice guy. He's got a big heart, and there's a reason he finds a reason for living and being a hockey goon that he ends up getting in a fight with his parents with that quite frankly, choked me up again when I was rewatching it. It was a heartbreaking kind of moment with the family. But that's where we are. We'll get started on the scenes here in a sec, but let's check the comments, see who's here and talking tonight. Beetlebee says, this obviously isn't interesting. Let's see, I'm going to say maybe you didn't think the movie would be that interesting, but you liked it. And if that's what it is, then I'm thrilled. I thank you. Let's see, who else we got here? Yeah, Steve Fromm says, I like the Australian punter. Stephen, after today, any Nebraskan that sees what happened at the end of that press conference, before we all liked him and all we'd ever done is seen him kicking, and we're loving him because we heard this guy's going to be running, he's going to be throwing the ball in punt formations, he's going to be kicking it with both feet, he's going to be kicking those spinning banana balls that Matt Rule loves. And then we finally got to meet him, and he was everything he was described, and then more. And yeah, let's see. Yeah, well, yeah. Steve Robbins says we'll have to talk football and chat, and I don't mind if you do that. We'll do the movie, and then I'll talk some football with you. Let's see. Kind of lame, Coronation. How dare you, Beetlebee? How dare you? Comes back with great show go at GBR. Tiger Shark Diver says he's a Goon fan. And Andy, this is an adult channel. We can play dark things, laugh out loud. Minnie is not here. That might make it moneyer. Well, moneyer and funnier if she was here tonight. I don't blame her. She does 2 of these a week. I just do the one, and I have to, and it's really pressing me to go, jump in and watch theirs from time to time. So I really appreciated her coming in and staying. Good for her. Yeah, Mitch Sherman broke our punter. Let's talk about that later. And anyway, let's move on. Let me get see if it's going to let me. Yes. All right. I want to get the audio clips kind of lined up and ready to go here. And since I had it on my TV, it was telling me I had to wait a certain amount of time before I could play it on my phone. So let's see if I am now free to do so. Thank you all for your patience as always. All right, where's it? Okay, you know what? It might still be frozen on my television, so let me play around. This will just take a minute. I think I just need to get it started on something else, and then it'll knock it out of the queue on the TV. It might just be freezing it up there for me. So what should I play quietly on HBO Max? Maybe some Peacemaker. If any of you have seen Superman yet, the Peacemaker does. John Cena does make a cameo there, and as always, he's pretty hilarious. I've watched a few of his movies lately. I just watched Heads of State with Cena and Idris Elba. I think Cena's playing the President of the United States, and Idris Elba is playing the Prime Minister of England, and they are pretty funny together just because Cena irritates Elba. So Elba's like a war veteran Prime Minister. Cena's an action movie star turned president, which, hey, 15 years ago, maybe you'd go, oh, that could never happen. And now I think we realize now just anything's possible these days. So let's see here. It's probably going to give me my 10 minutes. Oh, okay. I have freed it up. God, I have good instincts when it comes to this shit. Okay, let me get the first one queued up and ready, so we'll be ready for it. Okay, and there we be. All right, so first scene. You open the movie, and even if the first scene's not that great a first scene, I just like first scenes because they'll try to, most directors will try to set up as much backstory as they can in 5 or 10 minutes or less. So you come in and you realize that Sean William Scott's character, his name's Doug Glatt. The story, the movie is loosely based on the true life career of a kind of guy like that who'd never played much hockey named Doug Smith, who actually ended up getting a stint in the NHL while he hiccuped. He's sitting now while he's working security, and he's doing it with the old black T-shirt that says security on it, at a bar that really doesn't look like it needs like muscled security, but you know, you got to start somewhere. And he does throw. They do show him like throw a guy out. He got beefed up for this movie too. Sean William Scott looks goon sized in this. He looks well over 200, but really more. He was never really like a little skinny guy, but he really muscled up for this one without looking like a bodybuilder. Like, you know, he's got the biceps, but it doesn't look like there's zero fat on him or anything like that. And he happens to watch, or you look up on the screen, and his, I guess you're not really enemies, but if you want to call, you know, his protagonist in this is another goon. It's a guy who's like, you know, he's pushing 40. He's near the end of his NHL career, and they show him come up and chop a guy in the back of the head and drop him. And so you find out he gets a 20-game suspension. But that's your first look at Liev Schreiber as Ross Rea, and Ross just big goon, just beats guy, you know, hockey goon, beats guys up, makes fun of him. He's a pretty good little trash talker too. And then they show Doug working around the bar some more, and at one point you see this guy over on, you know, it's like a machine, and he's punching it and banging on it and screaming at it, and Doug goes, why are you hitting that? And he goes, I didn't win anything. He goes, sir, that's because it's a jukebox. And that's pretty good. So anyway, then you get to meet at church. You get to meet the family, and you also get to meet the world Doug's participating in. The whole family is Jewish, and I think they're supposed to be like American. They're supposed to be in like the Boston area or something like that. And here's you know, he's there with his dad's a doctor. He has a brother who's a doctor, but his brother's also gay. And Eugene Levy and his wife. Eugene Levy plays his dad, and his mom and dad just seem to be really fighting, having to admit that they've got a gay son. They're already embarrassed enough that they've got a son that's not really succeeding academically as much as they had hoped. So, and it's kind of funny because here's, you know, really nice Doug Glatt sitting there, has his yarmulke on, and starts you know, holding the door open for people. And here's somebody coming out, and here's this old couple, and he goes like, sir, you're going to have to bring ID next week because you look like you might be too young to be allowed in here. You know, just trying to butter the old guy up. And the guy just turns and goes, what the hell are you talking about? Just screams at him and storms off. And he like thought he was being nice. So, you know, fun stuff. And then, you know, and then here's here's friends come up. They're asking the gay son when he's getting married. And the parents are like, oh, he just hasn't found the right girl yet. And then you see here a car pulls up and honks, and a guy hops out, and he sees him, and he's like, and goes running to him. And it's like, yeah, that's his best friend. And then they're hugging and kissing some. and it's like, yeah, they're a little friendlier than most good friends I know. And so yeah, this is his family. It's just a messed up family. And then one of the guys you actually see, and I'll talk about him right now just because he appears in the movie twice, is they go back and they're showing Ross Ray highlight fights. And in one of them, he's fighting this very large black man with dreadlocks who is named George LaRock and was an actual NHL goon. And George played, just a couple notes on him, he played in the NHL for 12 years, and he played for 4 teams, 8 years with the Edmonton Oilers. And one of the things he was most known for is something that happens in this movie, which we'll get to, and then you see Ross Ray giving like a tearful apology for hurting the guy that he whacked in the helmet, and it's kind of, you know, you get the feeling there's kind of like crocodile tears there. He's just putting on the best act to get the suspension as low as he can. And so then we move to our second scene where Jay Baruchel, who you guys might know from things like Knocked Up. Oh God, what was the movie where the world was ending and all the Hollywood stars were stuck together for Armageddon? And he played himself in that and was like the nice guy arguing with everybody. So anyway, we go to them, and Baruchel actually was the screenwriter for this movie. He wrote the script, and he, as himself, he plays just this hot-headed Boston kid who does his own podcast and just cusses like crazy. And he's got this enemy, Steve from Worcester, the Massachusetts city that what it's spelled looks like Worcester, and Steve from Worcester apparently, and let's just get right into it. He goes, man, yeah, he's like, he calls me one time and told me I won the sweepstakes, and then told me the sweepstakes was 50 dicks, and he kept going. He said that I could either suck all 50 dicks at once or suck a dick a day for 50 days, and it's bullshit, and he's just furious at Steve at Worcester. Well, then, Steve sneaks in again, and he's got Doug on the show with him, and he asked Doug he asked what was Jay's name? Pat. Yeah, Pat from Boston or whatever. Asked Pat if he likes hot dogs, and he's like, yeah, I love hot dogs. I know we love hot dogs because they're like dicks, my guy. You just love to eat dicks. And he's like, no, screw you, Steve from Worcester. And then his producer just quits, and he goes, and so he finally goes, well, so there's nobody to check the phones anymore, so whoever's on, you're probably the last caller ever on my show. Because the show's just about to be canceled. Well, it's the coach of the local Canadian team, like close to sort of northeast there, but they're in New York, the Syracuse Orangemen. I think they're still in the U.S. at this point. So, and he asked Doug if he'd like to come out for a tryout after watching what happens in the stands, which is the opposing player had called in the next game. They go to a game, and Baruchel's just heckling this guy that gets tossed in the box for a penalty, and he's calling him every name in the book, and the player like jumps up and he goes, shut up, F word, and you see Doug go, hey, don't say that, my brother's gay. And then the guy comes over into the stands to fight, calls Pat that again. Doug grabs him and just starts to beat the living tar out of the guy, and then he busts one over his busts him open over his eye, and blood squirts out. I think you hear Jay Baruchel yell, what do you say? Nice face, period. And then he headbutts him, cracking his helmet in half. And so the coach is the last caller on that show, wanting to know if he wants to come try out for the Syracuse Orangemen. Which, what a great name for a Syracuse hockey team instead of the Orange Men. So we don't have to, pay Syracuse money, I guess. And so he comes to the tryout. Let's take some comments, and then we'll talk about the tryout, because this is where like the fun really starts. Although it's actually started, but let's see what we got here. We have Tiger Shark Diver saying, Steve Sipple is my spirit animal. Not a bad spirit animal, but let's see. Stephen Fromm wants to know why Sipple. Beetlebee says, here we go. And Tiger Shark, because he doesn't give a damn. And and so you know what? I got to meet Steve at Big Ten Media Days and talk to him a little bit. Just comes off genuinely good guy. I like Sip from the start. Let's see. It's Tiger Shark. He says he took some juice for this movie. Wouldn't surprise me. He didn't look wrecked or ripped, but he got big, and hey, it's not like the director's gonna pop you for it and suspend you. And let's see. This is the end. Yes, Tiger Shark Diver came close. Stephen Fromm nailed it. This is the end. Thank you. On the post-apocalyptic movie with Jay Baruchel. Stephen Fromm says, a good sports movie is The Natural with Robert Redford. I agree. It's a good sports movie. It's not a great sports movie. It's got some of the greatest single scenes ever in sports movies. And I think I had it. I've already done my article on it on my top 50 list. I had it at 48. And the main reason being, in between the Homer and the homers and the majestic music and the great baseball scenes, it gets pretty freaking slow at times. It really does. And I still watch it, every few years. I watch it fairly regularly, but I'm always taken by like, man, they needed to move this along. But don't take it as it's 90% that and 10% great. I mean, overall, if it's in my top 50, it's damn good, because there's so many more damn good sports movies than I ever realized. I thought Redford was fantastic as a baseball player. Just, you know, I assume he grew up playing a lot of it, because he swings a bat and throws one like a guy who's been doing it all his life. And I very much enjoy. Let's see. Okay, let's get back to the scenes. So he goes for a tryout, and he shows up. I mean, not only can he not skate, he can barely walk. And part of the reason is he's wearing what look like, I thought they were like just like rental skates, but then he's like, hey, don't, it's like Baruchel's yelling at him because the team is out there heckling him when he can't hardly stay on his feet. And he's like, hey, shut up. You guys act like you never seen, there's Brothers Figure Skates or whatever. So, yeah, they're the Gay Brothers Figure Skates. So they're really hammering that home. But anyway, he comes out, and right away, here's the coach going, hey, we just want to give him a look-see. And everybody's laughing, and the captain of the team comes up and is shit-talking him, and he's not too quick. He's like intentionally not quick with retorts. At one point, some guy says, I'm going to light your ass up, rookie. And he's like, I'm going to set you on fire. Or something like that for the comeback. And then he looks at the coach and like, yeah. And the coach is just like, oh, God. So, but yeah, so the guy comes up and he tries to say something, and he starts stammering a little. And the captain goes, come on now, use your big boy words. Just sound them out. And then he just goes, you know what? Fuck it. And just decks him with one punch, and then the whole team's coming after him. It's about half the team. When it's over, there's like 8 guys unconscious or just laid out on the ice, and the other half of the team who wisely decided not to join in. And I mean, he is throwing his stick at him. He's punching him. He's just out there destroying him. And then he's just doing these like guttural, while he's doing it. And then he's finally done. And he's fighting. I think he fights half the fight on his knees because he can't stand up. And then the coach, they're done, and he's looking around going, and the coach is like, well, good job, but that's your own team there. You just kicked the shit out of. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, sir. He goes, but the good news is that's your own team you kicked the shit out of. So how'd you like to play for Syracuse? And welcomes him aboard. And then we kind of get let's say, the last thing, yeah, Jay writing this movie. That, I mean, he went from some pretty thoughtful, funny stuff to never heard of this before stuff, just to the lowest common denominator. And he's like, well, the coach's like, welcome to the team, son. What number do you want? And he's like, huh? And then you hear Baruchel go, tell him 69. Take 69. It's hilarious. And Doug just turns around. The coach goes, is that number available? So there you go. For the rest of the movie, you've got Doug Glatt wearing the famous 69 jersey. And so then then comes just kind of skating, like numerous skating lessons. That's one thing. He's actually got to be able to move on the ice. Damn it. They show him, first game, he beats, it's like he's beating people up and playing well for the lower minor league Syracuse team. And then the coach brings him in the office and tells him, hey, so he tells him about this player who was not like, he was going to be the number 1 pick in the NHL draft. And they show a clip while they're explaining, hey, there's rumors he might not be all there, might have drug problems or whatever. Maybe there's some issues here we don't really know about yet. And it's a great scene because they're saying this caused him to drop to number 2 in the draft, and they show him being selected and going, yeah, number 1, baby. So, and he's just, oh God, he's just, long stringy hair and mustache, and just looks like an absolute, just greasy dick. And then they show that he gets blasted by Ross Rea, knocked out cold, and then after that, just hits the ice in fear, and every time it just will let the puck go, is just afraid he's going to get laid out again. So he's been told he's going to be going up to a top-tier minor league team, the Halifax Highlanders, and and then the brother coaching, the coach of Syracuse's brother is coaching that team, and that coach is played by Kim Coates, who I guarantee you, he's just been in movie after movie after TV show. I remember the first time I ever remember running across Kim Coates was in The Last Boy Scout. He was the guy who kept Bruce Willis kept wanting a cigarette from him. Can I have a light? And then he'd punch him in the face. And he does that a couple of times. And he goes, one more time, give me he says, hit me again. And I'll take another light. Punch me again and I'll kill you. And he literally does the old, and I guess doctors have said it's an urban legend, but it's the old, like, hey, punch him in the nose and send the nose bone up into his brain and kill him. And a doctor wrote once and said that would be like, I think it said impossible or next to impossible. But anyway, Bruce Willis kills Kim Coates with one punch, nose bone through the brain. And then he was also one of the bikers in the club in Sons of Anarchy and Sam Crow. And you've seen him a lot, and he is just hysterical as a hockey coach. And he goes, yeah, my brother's the coach of the team, and you see him at a practice screaming at his team. And we didn't win last night, and you guys want to know why? Because you're all nothing but shit. And then they go back and, yeah, you'll enjoy him. He's a good guy. And so, but he's sending him up to basically guard this little Flam guy and see if he can get him a little protection and get his head back in the game. And so where we are, hopefully here correctly, is where he goes to meet the team. And I can see right now. Yep, here we go. So I'm going to turn this up. And what you've got is Doug talking to the captain, who is a drunken divorcee, and then he's introducing him around to the team. And at the end, you will hear, and I think I've got a picture of them. You will get to hear these creepy Russian weirdos just making the goalie's life miserable. So let's see how this goes.
So, Doug, you're the tough yank that beats the shit out of her. That's like what I did here, but thanks, so I did here. Oh, okay. Yeah, my wife left me and said she was sick of hockey. Sick of hockey, yeah. Sick of hockey? I'm sorry. It's pretty much the shitter. Thank you. Oh, so nice of you. No, they offer them to see the tell me he'll do it. He'll hesitate. Nice to meet you. I'm Doug Glatt. Doug Glatt. Berkey lived where? At the first med school. Canadians are industrious people. I guess hockey is like that to him. Facing the pucks are like equation, eh, Berkey? Starting goalie Marco Belcher. Paul Belcher. He's from Regina. Regina? Trace my head, sanitizer. What's so fucking funny, giggly bitch? We have your mama right here. Look at this beautiful smile. There she is. Say hello.
So these guys are pumping goalie helmet with his mother on it.
Fucking Chernobyl motherfucker. Your mother's pussy so fucking tight. No way, baby, come out there. No way. You are dumb, bitch. Who are your team? Does anybody else see this shit? I love you, mama. You might want to wash it before you put on, man. Hey, I'm Doug Glatt. 2 rules, man. Stay away from my fucking Percocets, and do not let me fucking Percocets, man. Alright? Okay.
So there's your introduction to the team. That is, you've got a captain who is either hungover or still drunk. He harasses the Asian player on the team, Parky, and that character, the actor's name was Larry Wu, and most of the actual puck handling and skating that you see, besides LaFlamme, is Larry Wu, because he played Canadian Major Junior Hockey, like the next highest level in Canada to the NHL. And he's going, yeah, they're very industrious people. Hockey is like math to him. And then he flips, the park flips him off. And then you get the creepy Russian brothers, and we're not done with these weirdos yet. They've got the goalie's helmet has his mother painted on it, like a picture of his mother on it. And they're both sitting there like humping it from both sides. And he very thing is like, we're on the same team. Why are you doing this to me? And then they throw it back to him, and he kisses it. I'm sorry, Mama. And then one of them goes, you may want to clean before putting it back on. And then we get finished to him where Doug goes to introduce himself, and he goes, I only got the same goalie. Yeah, everybody's a head case, and he's like, I only got 2 rules. Don't touch my fucking Percocets, and do you have any fucking Percocets, man? And he's like, all right, got it. So there's the team, and they're hilarious. And then you got your first game, and this is one of anyone who appreciates a good national anthem. What you have singing the anthem is this like goth looking girl, and she is horrible, and she thinks she's killing it, and without missing a beat, the play-by-play announcer just steps right in, and it just lets everybody know what he's thinking, but just ready to fire as soon as she's done.
And a disgrace to our nation and its proud and storied history. We voted and kicked the nets and the wood drops.
And I just said, my father didn't kick the Nazis and the puck drops. So yeah, she is out there. She gets done, and she goes like, yeah. And then he just breaks right into that. Well, that was a disgrace and an insult to our nation's proud and storied history. But that was. There's a lot of really disgusting, funny stuff, but not that line just gets me every time. It just so offended, but still much like if you ever watched Brockmire, much like Brockmire, even in real life, he just stays in sportscaster mode the whole time, and this guy is just ready to strangle this 19-year-old girl to death, but he's still in sportscaster mode. So I just love that scene. So you've met Halifax, you've heard the anthem, and of course he gets out there in that game, looking to the bench, what do I do now? And they're like, hit him. And so, boom, one punch KO. Instantly, the city of Halifax is in love with Doug Glatt. And so they take him out, and we're just going straight into another one here. This is probably more, and I left plenty out. I didn't want it just to be playing the entire movie for you, but it is so funny. So afterwards, they take him out. The captain, who's barely conscious at the time, drunk, he's drinking with Doug, and here's some shot glasses, and he's doing the old, hey, who put that there? Gone. And Doug's like, all right, cool. And then he has another one at this point. He's like, hey, just a little something, and tips like half the shot, turning Doug's beer into the Boilermaker. And but they decide, since Doug got and won his first fight with Halifax, it's time for initiation, and the creepy Russians get involved in a way I couldn't imagine. And I'm on the side of these guys that at one point you'll hear Doug say, what's going on right now? Because he's like, I've never heard of anything like this. I'm not sure I want to be involved, and along with the rest of the team. But you have the creepy Russian guys trying to tell people it's okay because, well, let's just listen to it. Here you go.
Here we are. It's time to welcome, I guess, Doug officially through an initiation. Yes. So, we'll have to do that. Oh, shit, fuck. Sleep baseball. We should sign his dick. Everyone sign his dick.
Everyone sign his dick.
Are you in the little puss? Mommy with the pussy pot. Let's see what's going on over there. Show us your dick. I don't want you to see my dick. Well, you being gay. I think you're fucking being pretty gay. It's not gay, not if you're brothers. If you're brothers, it's gay on the fucking dash or something else. My brother's gay and he hasn't been too gay. I've been playing hockey my whole life. I never fucking signed no one's dick, man. I'll sign your dick, Doug.
I just love it. Been playing hockey my whole life. I've never signed no one's dick. I was like, I don't want to show you that. My brother's gay. He doesn't do that. But I think the best line in there is when the two brothers are trying to defend it. They're going, because they're going, why don't you want to do it? Are you gay? And it's like, hey, you guys are sounding pretty gay right now. And they're like, no, it's not gay if you're brothers. And he comes back with, if you're brothers, it's gay with a dash of fucking something else thrown in. And it's just like, yeah. And everybody on the team, as funny as it is, outside of the creepy Russians, everybody on the team is reacting exactly the way I think most anybody else would. Nobody, there's no freak out or fight start. It's just, what the hell are you talking about? I'm not doing that. Yeah, no, I don't want. Doug, I don't want to show you my dick. So you've got, this is just and then the captain is the one who he you don't see it there. He just flat passes out right before this all goes down. And there's this younger guy on the team that's just kind of his gopher boy. And he goes, sleep well, old wanderer, when he goes face down on the bar. So you've gone through his first game with Halifax. And then it's funny before the game, because right before he starts, at the end of meeting everybody, Xavier Laflamme, that's who he's supposed to be. What a great name, Xavier Laflamme. That's the guy he's supposed to be looking for to protect. And a quick minute after all the intros, he goes, hey, so where's Laflamme? And the captain goes, probably out in the parking lot giving a single mother herpes. And he's just like, no matter what they tell, and maybe it's just, the bouncer life, he's heard and seen it all. But yeah, no matter what they tell him, he goes, okay, very good then. Or, all right, got it. Just nothing shocks or surprises him. So you've done that, and now you see that Ross Reyes coming off his 20-game suspension and has been sent down. I think the team he's playing for is St. John's in Canada. So he's probably not going back to the NHL ever. He's they're sending him there for a rehab, but you get the feeling he's just there for as long as maybe he wants to keep playing or till he just can't he can't fight anymore or doesn't want to. But his days in the NHL ended when he took that swing with the stick. But you find out now here's one of the greatest goons of all time, going to be in the same league with Doug. I wonder if they've been setting it up so those two will fight. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. Am I right? So he gets sent down. And then Doug meets Allison Pill, who plays Eva, and he just falls for her. She's got a boyfriend. Of course, he's a douche. We're not going to give him a chance. But those two start falling in love, and she does not know how to deal with a guy as sweet as Doug, who just genuinely likes her for her. She's one that she even says, I get drunk and I sleep around, and I'm not a nice person. And Doug, that's one of these cases. Here's this, disgusting body hockey movie, and here's Doug's heart kind of shining through again. And at one point he's making her cry because he says he doesn't care what she thinks about herself. He knows he loves her. So here's actually, I'm not going to go scene by scene with it, but here's a love story I can kind of get behind. To me, it's like the opposite of the Kevin Costner for Love of the Game love story with Kelly Preston, which just goes sideways batshit and annoying at times. And I fought with people who really liked her in that. And I agree, she starts off fine, but then she does weird things. But anyway, there's none of that in this. It's like, I can get behind this couple. And I think they brought in, what's her name from 24, Alicia Cuthbert, to play her hockey fan cussing sister in the second Goon, which she married a professional hockey player. Well, she dated Sean Avery, I think, first, and then she married Dion Phaneuf. And Sean Avery, being Sean Avery, talked shit about it. Talked shit about her. Said Dion was getting his sloppy seconds and all sorts of uplifting shit like that. So but she's from the hockey world, so that was nice casting for the sequel. So anyway, so you're getting kind of their love story and all that. And now you've got an inspirational speech from the captain of the team. Let's see. Yeah, you got an inspirational speech from the captain of the team when I think they're down 3-1 in a game. And I don't think I've ever heard something go off the rails so friggin' hard as somebody starting off inspirational and then just like, what in the bloody hell are you talking about? If you thought signing Doug's dick was weird, here's Cappy with getting him back into it to come from behind.
All right, boys, listen up. We're still in this thing. We just need a quick one. Listen up, Jax. We gotta work harder than them, okay? Get harder than them, guys. You know what's hard work? Going through a divorce. She's trying to get all my money now. She can have half of it. I don't give a shit. The other half, hard work, mine. Some guys on their team are fucking divorced. 3 guys there. His fucking marriages are in the fucking toilet. Plain divorced guys. We gotta be fucking triceps, biceps, arceps, hard. Great fucking underground gay porn hard. You're all Adonises. Highlanders, gay porn hard. Gay porn hard.
Okay, you thought it was going to be the divorce thing, didn't you? I swear to God, we gotta be Adonis Greek gay porn hard. And that's his little assistant guy over there, like screaming things. Gay porn hard. You know, and he's going, yeah, they got guys, their marriages are in the shitter. And then the guy like, we're playing divorce, guys. And yeah, gay porn hard. That was one where I was laughing so hard, but not wanting to miss any of it the first time I saw it. So I'm doing that. And, you know, it's like the confusion just washed away. I was just like, okay, let's go, gay porn hard, you bet. And then at the end, it's Doug. Doug was told that was probably just the killer. Was Doug was true. Well, the rest of them were like, what the fuck? Like, here's LaFlamme's look when he turned it to gay porn hard. There's LaFlamme on the bench, looking like, what in the blue hell is going on right now? Oh shit! Oops, give those back. That's just indescribable. That's the last of the stuff. There's a lot more. I just picked out a few of my favorites. So if you ever go wait for it to stream for free, it's just Jay Baruchel, hell of a writer, just a funny, disgusting young man. Hell, Jay Baruchel, young man. He's probably 40 something by now. But yeah, gay porn hard was one for the ages. They have a little. They've got the classic the Nessun Dorma montage, the opera. You hear it in so many movies. I mean, the other one that pops right to mind was at the Opera House in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation when they're, you know, here's like assassins all over the, you know, the ropes and the platforms above the stage in the Opera House while Nessun Dorma plays. I'm not even gonna try and sing that for you. If I'm gonna try and go and here's how it goes, I at least want to make sure I'm hitting the notes, and I'll just be embarrassing myself with some of the guys that have sung that song. But anyway, yeah. So they do a little Nessun Dorma montage, and in part of that, Ross Reyes is sitting there reading a newspaper that says Glatt, like the next great enforcer, and you know, and Rossi's all getting pissed, but you can see he's kind of looking at it like, oh really? You know, old Rossi's probably thinking, this could be me being replaced. So the next thing we have is Doug's parents come to a game. Doug's parents and his brother come to a game, and then I think, is that the one? No, that's not the one with the girlfriend. But his parents come. Jay Baruchel's there just cussing a blue streak around the parents, and you can tell that's not their favorite friend of their son. But he gets in a fight, of course, and they show it up. There's one shot where they show him fighting, and here's a dad with his daughter sitting ringside on the glass, and he busts open, and blood splats on the glass, and you see this like 9-year-old girl going like, you know, giving him the old thumbs up, and the parents are disgusted. So they all go out for dinner, and Doug, they save the game puck for Doug, because I think that was the game where he ends up getting his first goal, maybe when they pop one in. Larry Wu, Parkey pops one off his ass and into the net for his first career goal. And his parents are at dinner and they are disgusted. And Eugene Levy and then his mom are just not happy with his new life career choice. And they get in, let's see, they're ashamed of him. Good, what did he say? Good, yeah, Jay Baruchel said, like, good fight, nice butt goal, or something, good game. But here's the thing, is they're telling him, you know, it's like, he goes, I can't be a doctor like you guys, and you got to get that through your heads. But you could have still done something. You could have been a teacher. And he actually, like, kind of slams the table, but doesn't start screaming. But he goes, I'm dumb. You guys got to face it. I am not smart. It's crazy to me you think I could be a doctor. And he's like, I'm done. Your son over here is gay. Dumb, gay. He's going, dumb, gay. Just, you know, like saying, accept it. This is who I am. And and Eugene Levy, with some venom in his voice, goes, because Jay Baruchel, and the name stuck with him with the fans, is Doug the Thug Glatt. And he looks at him, he goes, he's trying to say, you know, hey, I enjoy what I do. There's a jersey with our family names on the back, and people buy it and wear it around. And his dad just looks at him, and Eugene Levy goes, they call you Thug, for Christ's sake. And he's so mad. He is angry. And Doug was just going, you know, hey, he's good. Here's the thing. It's like I'm part of a team, and I'm part of a really good team, and fans love me, and I love my teammates, and I protect them. I protect them from other people. And that was really the heart of it, is he loves having a sports family that it's his job to protect. And he takes a lot of pride with that. And his parents stand up and walk out on him. And you're waiting for the heartwarming scene, and it's not. It's their fuck this, and they leave. And that choked me up, man. I mean, I had a family. I have a family that really supported everything I did, especially sports. I tried to take that and double it with Miley and Drew, my kids. And it's just, I don't know. You know, I understand where he's coming from. If you're a doctor, fighting's probably doubly bad, but you're not listening. You're not listening to him. They refused to listen to him. That's your son. He's trying to tell you why it means something to him, and he walked out on him. That was hard. That was hard to watch. So, yeah, there's more to this movie. It is body disgusting, hilarious, but like Ebert said, it's what made the review for him. Is there's a heart to this movie. There's a plot, and there's people you care about, and you really hurt for Doug in that scene. But anyway, here was one of the coolest scenes in the movie. Is there's a game, Doug gets in a fight, but he gets a 1-game suspension this time. The next game is against Ross Ray and his St. John's team. So he's going to be in St. John's, but he can't play. You know, they're not going to. The big fight's not happening. But so Doug is just wandering around thinking about life. You know, he's got problems with his new girlfriend. He's got problems with his parents. So he's just out walking around the streets of St. John in the middle of the night, and he sees a bar, mostly empty bar, and sitting in a booth by himself is Ross Ray. Kind of waves, goes in, and they actually have a nice little talk. And Liev Schreiber, I thought he was an interesting choice. I'd seen him as a tough guy before because he played John Clark when they did the Ben Affleck version of Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, and he played John Clark, the super secret ex-special forces specialist who works for the director of the CIA. And now here he is, and in that one he's still a pretty clean cut guy, but was very good as a basically hired gun assassin of the U.S. So I've seen him tough, but this is different. This is shaggy. He's got the big mutton chop mustache, and he's got some things to say. And Doug and he have a really interesting conversation. Check it out. He's just smoking away.
There's Doug Glatt.
Shakes hands.
Ross Ray. Nice to meet you, kid. Nice to meet you too. So, thanks. So you know me, eh? I don't think so. Everyone else seems to. It's good. Good for you, kid. Thank you. So what are you doing running around St. John's at 3 o'clock in the morning? How'd you guys play last night? Yeah, but not me. I got suspended again. Too bad. I ain't much for waiting around. You're a tough little bastard out there. You can fucking bang. Thank you. Thanks so much. So I'm gonna impart some of the wisdom of my years on you. I could really use some of that. Everybody loves their soldiers until they come home and stop fighting. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know. No. Kid, you got this thing. The stuff, the shit, the fucking grit. You got it like me. But like me, that's all you fucking got. And like me, you're no good to anyone doing anything else. All I'm saying is don't go trying to be a hockey player. You get your fucking heart ripped out. But I am a hockey player, sir. You're a fucking goon that plays hockey. Like you. I don't play much hockey. You're a hockey player, sir. You know they just want you to bleed, right? I'm here to do whatever they need me to do. You know, if they need me to bleed, then I'll bleed for my team. Yeah. I suppose you heard I'm gonna retire at the end of the season. I've been at this since I was 17, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna go out like some Nancy boy middle-aged fuck. You understand? Yeah, I understand. You have my respect. Whatever that means to you, you got it. But know this shit hard. If ever there comes a time when it gets down to the marrow and it's you and me, kid, I will lay you the fuck out.
Great little scene. Raise your hand if anybody else was thinking, hey, a little De Niro, Pacino, and Heat there. Especially at the end where it's like, kid, if it's me or you, I will lay you the fuck out. And you couldn't see it there. But, here's Doug, who's just sweet with everybody. And when he says that to Doug, they pan over to Doug, and Doug is just staring him right back in the face. But I love that when Doug would not back down on when he says you're not a hockey player, you're a fucking goon. And he's like, I'm a hockey player just like you. And he's like, I don't play much hockey, kid. And he says, you're a hockey player, sir. And that's the thing. It's like, even there, he's not backing down. And I just love that. I love that back and forth. I love the introduction. So you're the new me, huh, kid? Good scene. Good scene. Anyway, so it goes fairly quickly from here. You have the fight, and it's disgusting. Doug breaks his ankle. I mean, they both just get the piss beat out of each other. Doug ends up breaking his ankle, getting back up, fighting him on one foot. They're both just beat to crap. He does. It looks like he might be killed in there, and then he lays Ross Ray out, and Ross has a little smile on his face, and then Doug goes back to the locker room, and Eva, his girlfriend, comes down to meet him, and this is the end of the show. It's like they're showing what's going on the ice, which is LaFlamme finally is sparked. At one point, LaFlamme, he's an assistant captain on the team, right? In Canada, they call it an alternate. And after the game, Kim Coates, the coach, takes him out in the hall and goes, and tells him, it's like, well, here's what's going on. One of you's really been impressing me lately, been hustling, been really getting after it. And the other one of you is playing like dog shit and pissing me off. Would either of you two like to guess who these players are? And so he goes, so here's what's happening. LaFlamme, I'm ripping the A off your jersey. I'm giving it to Doug. He's like, so Dougie, good on you. And he's like, thank you, sir. And LaFlamme just goes storming off down the hall. That's pretty rough getting your A taken away from you. And goes storming down the hall. And then you hit Kim Coates, ever the soothing, empathetic head coach, goes, hey, you can take this either way you want. Ladies' choice, Jennifer. So, but now LaFlamme has said instead of just Doug pissing him off all the time, and they make them roommates, they fight a lot. He finally gets it, and he's out there scoring like a hat trick to beat St. John's. And here's Doug sitting in his locker room. His girlfriend, it actually looked like Doug's about half crying, but he's obviously in just a world of pain. He's just bloody. He can't put any weight on that leg. He's just sitting there. She's just kind of hugging him, crying a little while the place is going nuts. And it's a good show. I highly recommend it. It's good from beginning to end. I mean, like I said, a lot of times in sports movies, I don't have any problem with the romance as long as the romance doesn't just seem to be there for the sake of it and kind of drags it down. And some might watch and disagree, but I really liked Allison Pill's character. It wasn't they're both, googly eyes and all this. It's like, yeah, she's a gal who's, probably got some issues in life, had some issues that have made her like she is. And she just thinks, hey, like she tolerates the boyfriend she has. I think he's got some money. And but it's been forever, if ever, that she's met a man that treats her like Doug treats her. And I can watch that. And they're kind of funny together because she is kind of hard bitten and talks shit, and he just plows right ahead because he's Doug and loves everybody, it seems like. So yeah, good show, very good show. Let's see where we are in the comments. I want to see if I actually started running people off with a hockey movie. Let's see, we were talking about Sip, Redford. There we go. We were talking about The Natural a little bit. Figured out what This Is the End is. And then Tiger Shark. I'm not sure if he was talking about The Natural, This Is the End, or Goon, but says I have to see that movie. Says I bet you like Hooligans. Now, Steve Fromm, and maybe you'll say down below, but are you talking about Green Street Hooligans? Is that what it was called? But I don't know. Let's see if we're thinking it. Tiger said we should do a Happy Gilmore episode. Tiger, we did Happy Gilmore the first episode of the summer. Were you not there? Oh, man, yeah, we did. I did Happy Gilmore because that's when we got, I just found out the release date on Happy Gilmore 2. And if you haven't seen Happy Gilmore 2, I thought it was funnier than hell. It got good reviews, but mostly positive fan stuff. I figure some people were going to like it no matter what. Some people were not going to like it no matter what. But if you enjoyed Happy Gilmore, you'll enjoy Happy Gilmore 2. It's the same stupid, fun as hell humor. And for me, half the fun is just rolling through all the cameos are insane. How many of them there are, and that's not even counting the Stillers and what I think was the entire Sandler family in there. His daughter his real life daughter plays his daughter in the movie, and she's adorable. She's a ballet dancer. Instead of grandma's house, we're trying to raise Happy, who's just a drunk for reasons we won't give away, but needs to send her to a ballet school in Paris, and all of his family is good. The movie's funny. It seems like half the PGA tours that Xander Schauffele's seeing how many times he can say that's what she said, and no one laughing, and dude's going, no, dude, give it up. And oh God, you got Jack Nicklaus. I knew it was good. I knew it was going all over the place when Happy decides to go out and play a round of golf for the first time in a while. And there's Kelsey Plum from the WNBA in the starter shack, and he's playing golf with Eric Andre and Margaret Qualley, and just good times. So anyway, let's see what we got here. Hooligans is a pretty insane sports movie about all those crazy European soccer fans that kick each other. Yeah, because that's with who? Is it Tobey Maguire? Or no, not Tobey Maguire. The Hobbit. The one with the one with happy little bright face or whatever. Jumping in down there. I'm blanking on that now too. But Green Street Hooligans. Yeah, there's Tiger Shark Diver going. Green Street Hooligans. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, Green Street's one of those where I'm like, is it a sports movie? Because there's really not much. I don't know if they show barely any soccer in it. It's just basically how the teams have their gangs, their hooligan gangs that teams play, but before the teams play, the hooligans fight. And then I don't know if you've ever seen any of those Russian videos where it just takes it next level, where these Russian soccer gangs meet in the middle of these forests and just duke it out until everybody's on the ground, or refusing to get back up or out. And but that Green Street Hooligans was a good movie, because it's a retired hooligan. Is it his little brother, or is it his sisters? Is it his brother-in-law that goes to England and ends up running around getting in fights with the hooligans? Then they drag so and so back in. That is a very good movie. I think, that Green Street Hooligans sounds right. Thought you'd play them some Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I'll play the ending of Return of the King, or all 8 endings. We'll only be here for an hour. Let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah, falls for the douche like usual. Beetlebee says, I can't support this anymore. Oh, please tell me not Goon. Support Goon. Well, if you stuck around this long and you're still around and it's not for you, thank you. And hopefully I've given you just a slight desire to see it. Oh yeah, Waterboy. We had fun in that Waterboy episode. We had a lot of fun. So yeah, you missed it. Hey, go back. It's on. Go to Coronation. You'll just have to scroll back till probably, was it late June when we got going? I got going later this year, late June, and it'll still be in there. You can go and hit the link and watch it. Yeah, Happy Gilmore was fun. Was there any other way? Yeah, the other Dave, and good to see you, the other Dave. I don't know if I've seen you before. If I have and I forgot, I apologize, but glad to see you. And yes, there are great cameos. It's the Happy Gilmore 2 cameos alone. John Daly as John Daly, playing the John Daly we all are pretty convinced he is. And I asked one friend as a joke, I said, so do you think John Daly is in on the joke, or they just have him show up and be John Daly? Yeah, Adam Sandler has serious pull, and this is very true. Always puts his friends on. You always see like the linebacker and quarterback from Waterboy. You see them in everything. I'm sure they're in there somewhere. I think my favorite cameo that swings like Happy Gilmore into hockey country was just listed as like Goons or Enforcers or something like that in the credits, were Sean Avery and Chris Chelios. Sean Avery, he wasn't so much a goon as he was an annoyer. He was a big guy that went out and just annoyed people. In one game, he famously caused a 1-day rule change in a game where they were playing the Devils, and he loved to antagonize Brodeur, and Brodeur in turn liked antagonizing him back. But he literally just turned his back on the play, faced the goalie, faced Brodeur, and is just jumping around with his back to the game, just jumping up and down, screening Brodeur. Brodeur's like, what in the hell? And they literally met the next day and made that a penalty. Because the refs were like, I don't think, he's not touching him. He's not in the crease. And, we allow screens. He's just overdoing it. And they couldn't call anything. They said there's no rule that we want to call unsportsmanlike, but there's nothing strictly prohibiting this. So that was pretty funny. But Sandler, there's two things. He's got pull. Yeah, he always has his friends in there. But number 3, he's kind of like Keanu Reeves, John Cena. He's one of the nicest guys. He's got a reputation for being just one of the nicest guys out there. Like you see that his friends for life didn't get left behind when he became a big deal, and I think people who've worked with him always said he's super nice to everybody, which early on you'd find that hard to believe, because some of his characters can just be so ungodly annoying that you're like, God, this guy in real life he must, people just be, let me be in my trailer. Stop. That Alexander baby talking to you. I didn't tell you that. Yeah, I mean, I could see him being really annoying. And I kind of felt the same way about Woody Harrelson. And he's another one. Everybody that works with him says it's a joy working with him. He's just super nice, super funny, just keeps everybody loose and laughing. And I think Sandler's that way too. And I liked in Happy Gilmore 2, maybe we talked about it, how much like Rocky and say Rocky Balboa, the Creed movies, the dopey guy from Rocky has become a wiser, he's still not going to go get a PhD, but he's got this life wisdom. They, even in something as goofy as Happy Gilmore, they have kind of Happy he's turned into the wiser older guy, who's, still got all the problems in the world, but he's just not completely dopey and freaked out happy, and he's got a lot of those side Sandler rips, especially with Daly. Yeah, that was fun. Let's get rolling here. We're hour 20 in, and I'd like to get us out of here well under 2. So, and there's not a ton of trivia here, but what there is pretty good. Let me make sure I got everything here. I do. Let's talk about the cast just real quick, because Jay Baruchel's Canadian, and most of the cast was Kim Coates, who played the Halifax coach, Allison Pill, who played Eva, Eugene Levy, the dad, the mom was Canadian, and the only American actors in it were Liev Schreiber and Sean William Scott. Now, what's funny is Jay Baruchel's playing an American. He's playing Pat from Boston or wherever, and then Liev Schreiber, I think, is supposed to be playing a Canadian, but they were the only 2 Americans in the cast. It was Canadian, made, acted, everything. And now you watch this and you understand how Second City took off in Canada. These people have these people of the Great North. They're funnier than shit. They are funny people. This is funny stuff, and good for them for getting it made. And I'm glad it ended up making them some money, even though it took a few years. So I told you the story. There was a story about George LaRock. So the enforcer. So he both fights. You see him fighting Ray on TV at the beginning, and then he fights Sean William Scott. The long dreads. Now this is a real former NHL enforcer. Sean William Scott looked big, and LaRock looks massive next to Sean William Scott. But here's the thing. Notice, they go to play, and LaRock looks over and goes, "Hey, you want to go?" And he's like, "Yeah, yes, I would." Thanks. And he's like, "Hey, good luck to you too, sir." Real thing. Famously I think he got mic'd. That was wearing a mic or whatever for whatever reason, and did that during a game. It was in 2006. He asked an opponent if he wanted to go, and wished him good luck, and then patted him on the helmet and told him good fight after the fight. Yeah, and you'll see that every now and again. I saw one the other night from last season where the 2 of them went at it, and the refs kept coming in and then nope, they're not done, and coming in and letting them go, and then finally they tie up. Refs come in and they're like, "All right, you good? Yeah, everybody good?" Because they're still struggling a little, and then you see them both go okay, and you saw one hand come over and pat the other guy on the helmet, good fight. There's just so much respect among that element of the league, among the goons, and these are interesting guys. Somebody wrote a whole book on them where he spent a year or 2 going around interviewing them, really getting them to open up, and it's one of the most readable books. I think I went front to back. I mean, you got one guy I think now who's a financial, a very rich financial advisor. You got one guy that built doll houses as a side job, just these very detailed hand carved wooden ones, and there's all kinds of guys like this, that are friends on the ice. They'll be best friends on a team if there's 2 of them. One would get traded, and then they'd be like, "Yeah, it sucked having to fight my buddy, man. I mean, I did it. It's the job, but." Yeah, it's a very interesting subsection of hockey. Let's talk about some of the trivia real quick, and then we'll finish up with the categories. Goon was based on a book, a true story. Goon, a true story about my unlikely journey through minor league hockey, written by Doug Smith, and then what I imagine was an actual author who co-wrote it with him. Sean William Scott did gain weight for this, and he also took intense skating lessons, fighting lessons, so it looked pretty realistic. And I don't think it's kind of, some of the fights for the movie, they're great. You won't see it look that choppy, and you'll see a lot more defense and actually guys don't want to get punched. And you see the guys sometimes in the minor league fights, so they're going boom, boom, and they're getting hit as they punch the other guy. Those guys usually won't see the NHL. They don't want a guy who's just going to get the tar beat out of him to land punches. You have you grab the jerseys, you hold on to the elbows and the jerseys, so you try and get that punching arm a grip on. One of my favorite little moves is you'll see him holding the jersey right here and just going firing off these quick little jabs, and those hurt. So interesting stuff there. Boston goalie Tim Thomas cameoed as one of Ross Ray's teammates. You can see him hanging around the bus in one of the TV scenes. The play-by-play announcer who got infuriated at the butchering of the Canadian anthem, Kurt Keelback, an actual former NHL announcer. So he didn't just get that voice for that scene. That was his life. Very similar thing. If anyone ever watches Shoresy on Hulu, it's a senior hockey league comedy that's also surprisingly heart to it and all that. And there's one time where they're getting ready to play a U.S. senior team from Michigan, and they're going down there, and the place is acting like they're so welcoming to have their brothers from Canada come down, and then they bring out you see this, and now out to perform the Canadian national anthem, and here's this 10-year-old just dorky as hell kid, thick glasses, and he's got one of those little plastic recorder things. And you see the three women that are on the team look at each other like, what the hell? And then he's just going, and it's worse than this girl. And you see Shoresy over there, and he's not saying anything. You just see him start going. And then they bring out just this woman to sing the most amazing U.S. national anthem you've ever heard. So I always love anthem abuse if done correctly. The restaurant, they eat in a restaurant where he meets his parents and they have the fight. But you see a picture of John Candy on the wall. It's an actual restaurant in Winnipeg called Kaliki's. I think it's in Winnipeg. And that's why Eugene Levy wanted to do it there, is because it was John Candy's favorite restaurant. So and obviously they loved him too, with the picture of him on the wall. And so that was one Eugene Levy, though, asked, hey, can we film this scene there? So that was kind of nice. Good for you. Good for John Candy. Both teams, the Orangetown Assassins and the Halifax Highlanders, just by their uniform makeup and everything, are allusions to the Philadelphia Flyers, the famous Broad Street bullies of the 70s. And I know it's like Halifax is like it's there with the orange. It's not a direct copy of the uniforms, but you can kind of see where they're going for it, and it was intentional. They also have a player skating around with a Hanson on his jersey, number 17. They said that's absolutely a shout out to the Hanson brothers in Slapshot. An NHL All-Star player, Mike Ritchie, is seen playing for Halifax a few times. Mike Ritchie is probably best known for one of the goofy hockey commercials they were doing, and he was in them, and he has mop hair everywhere, and he's just eaten like a Swiss roll or whatever, the chocolate cream filled deal, and then they ask him to smile, and he does this big smile with just the crumbs, mouth all brown and the crumbs falling out. Let's see, talked about him. Basically all the bands were Canadian in this movie with the music. The only one I'd heard of was Rush, but it was all Canadian rock bands for the rock songs. Let's see, they filmed one scene at the MCS Center in Winnipeg, and Winnipeg had lost their team to Atlanta at one point, and then they ended up getting it back. But when they filmed this, it was empty because there was no team there when they're probably filming it in 2011. But when the movie was released in 2012, that was the same year Winnipeg got the Jets back. So, happy days for Winnipeg. Let's see, and I'm sure everyone remembers Sean William Scott and Eugene Levy worked together in American Pie as Stiffler, and the other one was, Jason Biggs' dad, Eugene Levy was. Okay, with Ross Ray, there's a couple things you see that were intentionally directly correlate with a couple things that happened in the NHL. When you see him chop the guy in the back of the head and go down, and Ross Ray gets the 20-game suspension, that was around, a few years before that. Marty McSorley, Wayne Gretzky's bodyguard for years in the NHL. Actually, later in his career, they're playing, I can't remember which team Don Brashear was on at that time, but Donald Brashear was another goon, and they had a fight. Brashear got the better of him. McSorley wanted a rematch, and Brashear was kind of famous for, once he'd beaten a guy, he tried to avoid the rematches, which is totally against the goon code. Is you respectfully give a guy a rematch if he wants one. And so I don't think he was going for the head. Watching the replay, it looks like he went to chop him in the shoulder, because you see that stick go off the shoulder into the head, knocks his helmet. His skates go out from under him, and then he falls back, helmet came off, and banged his head on the ice, and he wasn't hurt horribly, but he was out for a while, and McSorley was, that one might have gone to court, like, for assault. I think McSorley went to court, got a hand slap, because it's, that's kind of the gray area. Do we bring what goes on? Because if we can bring what goes on the ice to the courts, let's say you get beat up in a hockey fight, what's to stop you from, well, I want to go file assault charges? But anyway, then later on when he's doing the tearful press conference, there was another incident where, same thing, Steve Moore of, I believe Colorado, was Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi might have been on Colorado, but this player, Steve Moore of Colorado, had speared someone, I think cracked a couple of his ribs. And so he's got guys, come on, you know the deal, man. You hurt one of our guys, you're obligated to drop him and go. And he wouldn't do it. And a guy named Todd Bertuzzi just finally came up behind him, did like the old chop into the back of his legs, took him out. He hit his head. He was hurt badly. I think that might have effectively ended his career. And but then you had a press conference with Bertuzzi, kind of choked up about it all. And I like to think that, while he wasn't thinking that way at all at the time, obviously, that he did come to realize the error of his ways. And I would hope that was genuine, a genuine apology there, and realizing, what he'd done. So anyway, that was that. So Ross Ray's kind of playing both those guys, just they're going, okay, this guy's the worst of the worst. But then he has that little scene. You realize, he knows who he is. He knows his job. LaFlamme in that last game, he gets. Everyone knows what a hat trick is. For those of you who don't know, otherwise, what he got was called a natural hat trick, and that's when you score. Hat trick's 3 goals in a game. A natural is when you score all 3 in a row, and nobody on your team or the other team gets one in between. So they have LaFlamme finish up with a natty, and then they had a slight goof in Canadian American talk, because I think it was as Eugene Levy is leaving the restaurant, and he says something about, this is a joke. You shouldn't even have security. Maybe it should say security on your sweater instead of Glatt. But the thing is, Glatt's in an American family, so Dad, in Boston, sweaters are kind of what Canadians call it, or even old school hockey players still call the jersey the sweater, because the original ones were sweaters. They played outside, but you'd call it a jersey. You're more likely in the U.S. to call it a jersey and a sweater. And his dad, who knows nothing about hockey, sure as hell isn't going to be calling it a sweater. I think that was the Canadians slipping in. It was either a slip in the script by Baruchel or a slip by Levy. Not a major one, doesn't change the movie, but it's kind of funny that in a movie so Canadian, they had the American guy who knows zero about hockey calling the jersey the sweater. So anyway, let's see. Let's check for the comments. If you got a couple more comments in there, then we'll do we'll finish up quickly with the categories, and then we'll move to some football talk. Okay, so what do we have here? Yeah, we're talking about Happy Gilmore 2 and Tiger missing the Happy Gilmore episode. Oh, Tiger, that's what I saw. I saw one more long comment from Tiger Sharks. He goes, when David Spade's sister that owns the company, Kate Spade, she committed suicide, he came to his house and pounded on the door until Dave answered and said, Gaga. That's funny. That reminds me, oh man, yeah, that just sounds like David Spade probably went to, kind of the dark place there. I always like the story of, and there's so many of these that seem to surround James Gunn Productions, because James Gunn's such a, as well as being super funny, like Sandler, obviously tied into all kinds of emotions. So when they made Guardians of the Galaxy, like Vin Diesel famously plays Groot, and all he ever says is, I am Groot. And he actually went, when they made it, and they're getting ready, for dubbing in other countries, that he personally went in. Sometimes they'll just have anybody, whoever, do the voice, but he personally spent, I guess hours, weeks, whatever, doing all the foreign dubbing in his own voice, like reading it all and doing I am Groot, I am Groot, I am Groot, because he had to change inflections and everything, and he just spent forever doing it. But what got him, Vin Diesel famously said after Paul Walker died, that was, everyone knew they were best friends, and he just never left the apartment or the condo or whatever you call it. Like, wouldn't go out, just would have all his food brought in, just didn't want to talk to anybody. Was just crushed, didn't know how to deal with it. And then they talked him into doing the voicing for Groot and Guardians of the Galaxy. And apparently Vin Diesel said that is what got me out of that hole, is, being able, it got me around people again. It got me, just back in social life again. And he said it was hard because he'd just been away for so long just by himself. So I like stories like that. So let's go to the categories. Let me get my picture picks ready. Let's see. Did I have any here I didn't show you? I showed you the creepy Russians. I showed you La Flamme. Yeah, that's when I played the scene where there's the captain, the divorced drunk captain on the right. When I played the scene, he was introduced to everybody. There's Doug to his right. What the hell's going on here? Which was very funny. Yeah, one more time. There, oops, they're on, your left, that's Ross Ray, and then there's, Jay Baruchel is screaming Pat with the podcast on the right. So anyway, let's start with real comedy, the comedy quality. There wasn't too much unintentional comedy. Most of the players could skate, that they got for the movie could skate and play. Most of the comedy is extremely intentional, and I think it's Osborne funny. It is a 5-star. I've never been as tempted to play as many clips as I did. But this one I had to actually leave clips out, or else we're just going to be listening to clips all night. So five for the comedy. The next is the sports quality. That I'm going to put probably at about a 2. I'm not going to go Riley, but I am, because we got a few players in there, but I am going to go 2-star Solich on that one, just because it's not good enough. And I'm spoiled because of movies like Slapshot, where everybody there most of them were minor league players in the actual league. Here's a crazy thing you'll learn when we do Slapshot, which will just be the funnest night ever for me, and I hope it is for everybody else. But that's based on a true story too, Slapshot. It was written by the sister of one of the players in that league, who he ends up, I think he plays Oglethorpe in the movie. So and then Miracle, where they actually audition the best hockey players, like the 100 best hockey players who wanted to come out and do it, and then chop those down to like the 20-something best that could act. So I've seen 5-star Tom Osborne level hockey play in a sports movie. This ain't it. It's not the worst. I have, like, Mighty Ducks is probably the worst. That's some of the worst skating ever, like some of those. But this is okay, but it's not okay enough to get a Polini. So that's a Frankie. That is a Frank Solich. So what's next? We have adrenaline scenes. There are, but I don't know there's that many sports adrenaline scenes, because even the games they win. I mean, it's pretty cool at the end when La Flamme gets his hat trick, gets his natural. When Doug gets his butt goal, but they're not even. I mean, are these even? Can't even remember if they're championship games. So it's just mainly through one season there, and you're never really you're more fired up about what's going on. Like, for me, one of the best chill adrenaline scenes is that talk between Doug and Ross in the bar. What are you doing wandering around here at 3 a.m? That one gave me chills. That, like I said, the dinner with the parents gave me some chills. Really, really jumbled my emotions around. But adrenaline scenes, Frankie, hop back up there. Here's 2, and I'm not hitting it because it's a bad thing. It's just something not in the movie. That's all it is. It was like the fight I've told you about I had with Sandlot people, who when I put it in at about number 39 or 40 or whatever in my top 50, just lost their minds. Well, they didn't lose their minds, but took great umbrage at it, shall we say. This is a top 5, and I'm like, it's not. There's nothing big happening in sports. It's a summer of these guys playing in a backyard, and yes, they beat a little league team in the middle of the movie, and you knew it was going to happen, and it was more just funny because A, you knew they're that much better because you've watched these kids play, and B, they got the great Hambino behind the plate. But there's no big game, no Hoosiers state final, no tin cup, watching the lead fall in the lead for a major and then watching it fall away, which one of my favorite scenes ever. So yeah, that's the thing. It's not a slam. It's just something that's not there, but it's kind of there, so we can't rate it very highly. Rewatchability. Here you go. Boom. This is one of my most rewatchable movies. You can jump in at any time and something funny is going to happen pretty quick. So it's an easy one to watch over and over. I try to hold myself on movies I really like. Okay, if it's one I'm always going to watch, no more than every other year, and sometimes I jump it with Goon. Let's see, and then our final scene, the Oscar reboot. I really like the Sean William Scott performance in this. It took a lot of people aback. A lot of reviewers are like, I've never seen him like this. He's Stiffler, or he's some offshoot of Stiffler. Like, take him in role models. That's just a grown-up Stiffler who has a job trying to convince grade school kids to drink energy drinks, and drives around in a pickup with big bull horns and bull noises, on the PA system, and with his buddy Paul Rudd. This is just a completely different part, and he's very, very good. So I decided, let's take a look at what was going on in the Oscar races in 2011 and 2012. 2012 Oscars, we had Jean Dujardin for I can't even read my own writing. The Artist, maybe? I don't know. Never heard of him, can't remember the movie. We had another French guy. We had George Clooney for The Descendants. Gary Oldman for Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Brad Pitt for Moneyball. And then, let's see. Then I'm going, well, what about Sean William Scott for Doug Glatt? I tell you what. First of all, if I'm redoing these Oscars, especially after doing Moneyball last week, yeah, Brad Pitt, you're staying. I don't remember. There's no talks about this guy or this movie. George Clooney, you're my new winner for The Descendants. And the second French guy, sorry, that I've never heard of, Sean William Scott, you're nominated for Best Actor. And I'm not kidding. Best Picture, and this is where, at this point, we're allowing in like 8, 9, or 10. We're putting comedies in. And it was The Artist. We have The Artist nominated, The Artist which wins, somehow beats The Descendants. And then here's Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, The Help, Hugo, Midnight in Paris, Moneyball, The Tree of Life, War Horse, and yeah, we're going to make room for Goon as one of the best movies of the year. Again, not kidding. I'm not going to throw The Artist out. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close is long gone. I read that book, very good book. I just found the movie to be a boring kind of a mess. And I don't know how it got nominated. And then I read, and there's some reviews out there that felt the same way. What it nominated? This thing's like a 1.5, 2-star movie. And it just puts you to sleep. Yeah, so you're out. I didn't see The Help, heard good things. Same with Hugo. Don't know what Midnight in Paris is. Moneyball. This is a toss-up, but I'm giving Best Pick to Moneyball or The Descendants. Maybe I'll call it a tie. We'll be like an African country high jumper and the Italian high jumper at the last Summer Olympics when they were tied, and they were telling them, well, we can do a jump off then, and then one of them, the Italian, just went, well, can we each have a gold medal? And they looked around and said, no rule says you can if you're both willing and okay with a tie. And then they both just start screaming, hugging, running around. The Italian was beyond himself, and he'd had a big comeback from injury. So, yeah, tie for gold was fine by him. And the other guy was just like, you just saw him with this look on his face where he's very, very happy. He's not sure what the hell just happened a bit. Like, he was just taken aback a little by the pure joy of the other guy. And then you just see him kind of walking over with the biggest smile on his face. and he realized, and I think it was a look that said it's starting to sink in. I think that I may have just become one of the big moments in Olympic history, with two guys saying, "Let's share a gold medal." But they didn't have to share one; they each got one. Yeah, if they were going to one and a half, they might have rethought it a little. But I'm going to let the Descendants and Moneyball share this one. I didn't do it last week. I'm doing it this week. And Goon, you're a nominee. So there's where we are. We'll check comments real quick, then we'll talk some football. But that's it for Goon. Highly recommend it. There's so much funny crap going on. I mean, if you're a hockey fan, they're pretty true to hockey lingo, habits. What would you call it? Culture, like hockey culture. But you don't have to not really know hockey to really enjoy Goon. I mean, the first hockey movie I saw, and this was when I was in college, and I didn't take up hockey till like 4 or 5 years later. In my 20s, I took it up as an adult, and I saw Slapshot, and Slapshot made me want to know more about hockey, and I started becoming more interested in hockey at that point in my life. And if you do Goon and you haven't seen hockey, I hope it does that for you. Hockey really is a funny sport on the ice and behind the scenes sometimes. If that happens for you, good on you. So let's see what we got up here. Someone perpetually indignant came in with a, "Hello, Governor." Yeah. "Hello, Governor. Go Big Red." Thank you very much there, perpetually indignant. So, what happened today? I actually have a few things written down. Today we had Phil Snow, he's like an assistant coach, and he's more of the advisor type on defense. This guy is just referred to as the other coaches on staff as just having an encyclopedia of football knowledge, and use that phrase a lot. You're dumb not to take advantage of it. And this is our first chance getting to talk to Phil. Came off as a really good guy. One thing about Phil, and this is a guy I'm trying to say, if you hear this guy is going to be interviewed, go check him out, because not me personally, but he did a Q&A with the press after a practice in spring ball. The new defensive line coach was an assistant defensive line coach at Kansas City, Terry Braden with 2 Ds. And every coach that's asked about him, and players are just like, a lot of energy there, a lot of energy. He is a full speed ahead, so much energy, such a positive attitude, and just engaging, funny, so much fun to watch him. So, and Phil got asked about him, and he goes, he's great. Yeah, he goes, Terry's something else. He had former Chiefs, linemen, I guess, were very public about saying he deserves this, but man, we're so sad to see him go. God, who's their big A rush end on defense? Both that guy, George Karloftis, who's there. We're both talking about how much they miss him, how much he meant to them. But go Big Red. They wish him all the luck in the world. So that's what Phil Snow had to say about Terry Braden. Let's see. We had Dane. We had Dane Key. Dane's a nice kid. Really good dude. They asked. Let's see. What's this? Or no. Wait a minute. No, I got ahead of myself. First we had Mike Eckler. Second time with Eckler. He led. Somebody asked him about Archie Wilson, our new punter, right out of the gate, and he just said he's going to be a damn weapon. And that was Eckler, full speed ahead. Let's see. He said, somebody asked him, because Saturday Coach Rule had mentioned that four returners, and he was just talking about the punt team. Eckler says there's a group doing punts, group doing kickoffs, and the group he said doing punts was Ja'Cory Barney, Isaiah Mosey, the freshman Isaiah Mosey. Did I write them all down? I hope it did. You know what? I wrote them down on this page because I knew I'd start forgetting stuff. I had a long day. Andrew Marshall, the cornerback transfer from Idaho State, and Caleb Benning. And so we asked about them. Who's going to be running those kicks back, and he said Ja'Cory told him he was going to lead the nation in touchdowns this year, like all-purpose touchdowns, receiving, returns, etc. And his take on that was, he goes, hell yeah, because I don't mind guys making big proclamations and then go back them up. He's like, because Eckler said, that's how I am. He goes, I expect big things out of these guys this year, and I'm not afraid to say it. And so, he's one, you understand the run through a brick wall stuff when people mention. He had the quote of the day, Mike did. He was taught, like they were talking punt returners. I asked him a question about, are there any other punt returners ruled and mentioned, because he said he may have forgot one. And then it just turned into a long response on the return game, all that sort of thing. And he goes, what makes a good punt returner? He goes, a good punt returner should be like a fart in a skillet. Gone. Like, okay. And I hear a guy behind me, okay, he said skillet, right? Yeah, I'm mishearing this behind me, I think, from like Mitch Sherman or somebody like that, or somebody asking him. Okay, I heard fart. Did he say in a skillet? But yeah, fart in a skillet. And then he starts talking kickoff returns about a minute and a half, two minutes later. And he says, somebody asked me what returning a kickoffs is like. Y'all see Days of Thunder? Me? Hell yeah, I've seen Days of Thunder. I actually watched it again like 3 weeks ago just to fall asleep to. Fuck yeah, I've seen Days of Thunder. He goes, you know that scene where there's the crash and the cars are bouncing all over the track and cold trickles driving along, and and here's smoke everywhere, and he's on the mic with Robert Duvall, and he goes, and he tells him, drop the hammer, just pick a line and drive through the smoke. And he goes, guys, that's what kickoff return is. Drop the hammer and run through the smoke. What? Yeah. So anyway, I'm not going to talk about Eckler all night. I just wanted to hammer home. The room lights up when Mike Eckler walks in, and he literally comes in like seems genuinely happy to see us. Some guys, they're all polite. No one is rolling their eyes. I hate this. You can tell some of the players aren't comfortable with it yet, but there's none of this. Fuck these guys. Nobody's walking in with that Bobby Knight sized chip on their shoulder, and it's good. No one's really out there. Now, granted, I've only been doing this part of it, like with football, for maybe about a year now, where I can get on the interviews. I did I was in the press box last year, so then I could go to press conferences after games, and then in springs where I kind of went all in, where I've basically got the pass that's good from spring through fall for all practice viewings and press conferences and press events. So this is still new to me. So, and there hasn't really been a scandal yet, because those questions maybe can tense things up a little. So what I'm trying to say is I've never really had one of those moments where, well, there's some hard questions to be asked, and let's see how people react. So, but to be fair, so far, there's no reason for anybody to be mad at each other. But yeah, good. Eckler came in, everybody was happy. Next was Dane Key. Nothing major he said there. The kind of funny thing there, super nice kid, like I said before, and they asked him about going against Andrew Marshall. Sounded like Marshall's going to be starting at one of those cornerback spots, and Marshall, they asked Key about going against Marshall, and he said, I think I go against him in practice all the time. He is tough to beat. He says, but I think I'm going against one of the best cornerbacks I'm going to face all year right here. He goes, when you can do that in practice every day, it makes you so much better. And so he takes it. He says, yeah, we get after each other. We get into it. But, he is probably the first Husker not to say iron sharpens iron. If there is one thing that is just funnier than hell, I might have brought it up last week, it's that everybody just says iron sharpens iron. Now, that's part of the culture. Awesome. And it appears to be working. But he managed to talk about them going at it without saying iron sharpens iron, I think. then somebody looked. I think one of the guys looked it up after we had heard iron sharpens iron for about the 8th time last Thursday, maybe, or last Tuesday, and and the guy looked it up and says, as it turns out, you can't really use iron to sharpen iron. It doesn't work. But don't tell anybody. Okay, so that was Dane Key. Good fun. He's very, very excited to play in Memorial. And Dylan Raiola, he's moved in with him. And they said that they said, who got that? Because here's Dylan hanging around waiting for Dane Key to finish. And then they hop off and somebody goes, so you got two, how are you Dylan living together? And he said, that's kind of happened. They're like, how did it happen? And he goes, did Dylan ask you to move in? He goes, no, I kind of said, because he said he was spending all his time over there. He goes, Dylan lives a lot closer to the campus, the stadium, and everything than I do. So I was hanging out. So finally I said one day, I had stuff over there. And, it's almost like the girlfriend that kind of moves in without you realizing it, but not like that. But anyway, so he's got something. I said, well, I should just move in here. And Dylan went, he said, what was Dylan's response? He goes, yeah, I'm kind of wondering why you haven't already. And so that day they drove together, and so Dylan was like kind of hopping around in the background, wanting to get going, waiting for Dane to get done. So that was funny. And then we had Archie Wilson, and we've been told what an engaging kid he is. Like Rule had said, I can be out there yelling at guys trying to scare him, and he's gonna pop a comment back at me. Like he's like, here, 18-year-old kid, and he's smart-assing the head coach when he's screaming at people. So I imagine he's dealing with Eckler really well. Eckler sang his praises, said, fantastic kid, not worried at all about his first game of football ever being in front of 70,000 screaming fans in Arrowhead Stadium, has no problem. They asked him about the kicking with both feet. Do a lot of guys do that? He goes, a lot try, because he goes, it's a useful thing in Australian rules football, so then you can run and kick on the fly from either side of the field. And then he was funny. That probably one of the stories came out that that Rule told us on Saturday was that here's the freshmen, they make them all like eventually sing in front of everybody. And so he sang Piano Man, and Rule said, and he killed it. It's like I heard he wasn't there, but he was told he absolutely killed it. And so he got asked about Piano Man and learning everyone's names. And he said, well, Piano Man, his response was something there. Well, I went up and smashed it. I'm not going to lie. just the laugh from everybody. Well, and if you go onto Twitter and you saw Mitch Sherman, because he's the one who asked him, Mitch Sherman goes, wow, who's the jerk that made Archie cry? Mitch just asked him, okay, you've been over here. We've read where you said you're very, very close to your family. How tough is it being away from him for the first time, knowing, hey, this is like a long-term thing? And he starts talking, and then he's just stops. And the moment he stops, I'm like, he's trying not to lose it. And then he lost it, and he's like, I'm sorry, and he kind of puts his head down, and we just sat there, let's just say those weren't the only, it was such a heartfelt moment. Thinking of it, there were not too many dries in the room, although nobody's admitting it. I took a look around, and I was like, yeah, it's not just me, that people, but everybody's smiling just because, okay, here's a real moment from Archie we weren't expecting. And he comes back and he's like, yeah, it's tough. I'm not going to lie. It's tough. And he says, the good thing is they're actually going to be flying to Nebraska and going to watch like sticking around for like a month or so. It sounds like watch his first 3 or 4 games. So they'll be around. He says it. I'm imagining this is the kind of thing now when you've got FaceTime, now it's not just a voice on a phone. Now you can FaceTime with people. And he says that really makes it a lot easier. And, therefore he's not having problems. Everybody says he is getting along. He's one of the funnest guys to be around. But just because there's that doesn't mean you can't both be happy about what you're doing and miss the people you left behind. So, yeah, Mitch Sherman, you bastard. Yeah, I went on Twitter, and boy, if you thought he was popular before that, I think you have just about every woman over the age of like 40 wanting to adopt him, making it, it's like he's going to be my stepson or he's going to be my new grandson. They were just like, I want to bring him home for dinner. This is the sweetest kid. So now he's not just the funny Australian guy, who is going to make our special teams 10 times better. And apparently, and through the first part of this presser, this Q&A, we're going, what an engaging kid. What a nice guy. And they were not lying about him. He seems to be kind of mature beyond his years. And then at the end, we get to meet the 18-year-old kid who even though it's been a few months, misses his family. Man, it was a nice thing to see. It was a great moment. Keith Mann, in charge of communications, like at one point he's like, all right, are we done? And then he kind of popped back, took another question before he didn't want to leave the room, just an emotional mess. He's like, okay, it's like, I don't want this called on my account, and maybe he's like, hey, they may not do this again. Pulled himself together, finished talking about it, took another question. And then it was like, hey, it was really nice to meet you guys. And, oh, God, what a nice kid. So Archie Wilson, the first punter who's going to be the most popular player on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. He might sell as many jerseys as Dylan before the season's done. Who knows? So let's take a last look at the comments here and see, and then we'll get you out of here. We're on the 2-hour mark. So is Phil Snow the guy who looks like a mafioso, a Phil Soprano? No, he's got like he just looks like an older dude. He's got a beard. He looks like any other older coach, salt and pepper beard, had a cap on. So I didn't really get a mafioso vibe off him. Maybe there's a different picture, but he's definitely not anywhere close to the size of Gandolfini. Oops, Fred jumped in to say he's on special assignment back next Tuesday. Well, Fred, thanks for sticking your head in. Hey, catch the replay if you got a few minutes. But as always, good to see you. I am disappointed you weren't here. This is your humor. Goon is Fred Sacco's humor, top to bottom. So if you get a chance, I'd say if you have to choose between the podcast and Goon, watch Goon first. You will enjoy Goon. Let's see. Yes, Ken, very good. Anywho, I'm on super secret probation assignment. Prepare to be dazzled. Okay, yeah, but it perpetually says, I hope it lives up to the hype. Now it better live up. Let's see what you got. And then Hopium, and almost immediately Copium. And on that note, we are done with All the Right Movies. The Goon episode. Thanks for allowing me to bring some hockey in. There was last year, and I don't remember who it was. It wasn't one of you guys, but somebody, when we did Miracle and then had technical difficulties, got in trouble for showing the wrong kind of clips. Got mad. What is this? It's 91 degrees out and we're doing stinking hockey. It was seemed like genuinely upset, and I'm like, dude, we do this in the summer. I can't just do baseball movies and et cetera, in July and August. We're gonna be mixing it in. So yeah, but this is this summer's hockey movie. Thanks for tolerating it. And remember, Rocky next week. Next week is The Rock. The original Rocky. So we're gonna have guys singing by trash cans. We're gonna have giant mastiff dogs jumping around in the alley, howling with Stallone. We're gonna have Carl Weathers, as Apollo Creed. And one thing I'll jump this with Apollo Creed is, yes, if there's a racial flaw in Rocky, it's once again like kind of the Great White Hope type of thing. For the white audiences, when black, especially in a time in history where blacks are dominating the top 10, top to bottom. I remember Dwayne Bobbitt got in there in the 70s, and then made the mistake of getting in the ring with Ken Norton and just getting the living shit beat out of him. But the one thing I say though is, check the Apollo Creed character, obviously based on Ali, but look at what he's doing behind the scenes. He is not like the dumb black champ or just the champ that, is just spitting out a lot of stuff. He is wearing dapper, granted 70s dapper, but dapper suits around, and he is involved in every bit of his promotions. He is talking ad deals, like where to run ads. He's talking about, I'm picking who I fight. He knows everybody in there and try and get this guy. He's talking TV deals. He is very much a man in charge of his career, which in the 70s seems ridiculous. Like, it didn't seem like any of those guys were in charge of their careers. That was the rise of Don King, who just basically took charge of their careers by just telling lies, scaring them about others, sound familiar, and then taking over control of them and taking their money. And famously, and like being sued for it. But he always got them to sign off on everything, so there wasn't much anybody could do. So anyway, we'll have some fun with Rocky next week. Perpetually asked, what do you say? Did I miss the PJ Fleck part of the show? No, I think we brought him up last week, and I think we talked about a little last night on with Minnie and Greg, just because we were talking about Big Ten Media Days. Now, PJ Fleck, for whatever reason, that he always does something freaking obnoxious. This time he just decided to, they give you 15 minutes. I get the feeling, and then you're supposed to do a lead and take some questions. And just gradually, it seems like most everybody's afraid to take questions, and they filibuster like 14 to the 15 minutes talking about anything and everything, and then just have to take one question and they're done. And Fleck did that again, and this time screamed the 14 minutes. He's yelling. He's yelling at everybody, and I do this, and we do that, and this. It's like, God damn, PJ, the microphone works. Settle down. It's like Signetti was up there fired up, but he didn't just start yelling at everybody. But anyway, no, you didn't miss the PJ Fleck part of the show. There's generally not going to be a PJ Fleck part of the show, but he can talk to Minnesota people. He's their problem. Go away. So good night, everybody. Really appreciate you. We'll see you next week for Rocky. I'm sure a little more football talk will creep in there as well. And until the Rock rings the bell, he didn't ring the bell. Until they ring the bell for the Rock. Go Big Red. Love you guys. Hopefully see y'all next week. And as always, thanks for showing up. You don't know how much I appreciate it. Good night.